Lifestyles. Understanding different ways of living. By studying the lifestyles of various cultures, students can gain insights into how people in different parts of the world live, work, and interact within their communities. This understanding helps them appreciate the diversity of human experiences. Example: students might explore the typical lifestyle in rural Indian villages, where community living and joint family systems are common, and compare it with the urban European lifestyle, where nuclear families and more individualistic living arrangements are prevalent. They could also examine how factors such as climate, economy, and cultural values influence these lifestyles, such as the emphasis on afternoon siestas in Mediterranean countries due to the hot climate versus the early start to the day in many parts of India. Impact. Promoting empathy. Understanding these different lifestyles fosters empathy by helping students see life from perspectives that differ from their own. This encourages them to respect and appreciate the choices and circumstances of others, leading to a more inclusive mindset. Reducing stereotypes. By learning about the varied ways people live in Europe and India, students can challenge and break down stereotypes they may have held about these cultures. For example, understanding that not all Europeans live the same way or that Indian urban life is as complex and diverse as rural life helps students see beyond simplistic views. When students understand and respect the unique lifestyles of their peers, whether they come from European cities or Indian villages, they are more likely to include and value these diverse perspectives in the classroom. This builds a more inclusive environment where all students feel accepted and understood. Dressing styles. Exploring cultural significance. Dressing styles are a reflection of cultural identity and tradition. By studying the traditional and modern clothing of different cultures, students learn about the values, history, and social norms that influence how people dress. Example: students might study traditional Indian clothing, such as the sari, worn by women across various regions of India, and the dhoti, traditionally worn by men, and compare these with European attire like the French beret or the Scottish kilt, which carry significant cultural and historical meanings. They could explore the symbolism behind these garments, such as the colors and patterns used in Indian textiles, which often have regional and spiritual significance, and how European fashion evolved through different historical periods, like the Renaissance or the Victorian era. Fostering respect for cultural practices. Understanding the significance of traditional clothing helps students respect and honor cultural practices that may be different from their own. This understanding also teaches them to appreciate the beauty and meaning behind diverse dressing styles, such as the intricate embroidery on Indian saris or the historical significance of European royal attire. Challenging prejudice. Learning about dressing styles from Europe and India can help students confront and overcome prejudices or biases they might have about how people from different cultures dress. For instance, appreciating the cultural importance of a sari or a kilt can help dismantle preconceived notions and foster respect for these traditions. Supporting representation. When students from diverse backgrounds see their cultural attire represented and respected in the curriculum, it reinforces their sense of belonging and pride in their heritage. For example, a student of Indian descent seeing the sari discussed in a positive light in the classroom, or a European student learning about the historical significance of traditional European garments, contributes to a more equitable and inclusive environment. Music. Understanding cultural expression. Music is a powerful expression of cultural identity, varying widely across different cultures. By studying the music of various regions, students can gain insight into how communities express their values, histories, and emotions through sound. Example: students might explore the classical music traditions of India, such as Hindustani and Carnatic music, which include complex ragas and talas that are deeply connected to spiritual and emotional expression. They could compare this with European classical music, such as the works of composers like Beethoven and Mozart, which have shaped Western musical traditions and are often associated with emotional depth and intricate compositions. Additionally, students could study folk music traditions, like the bhajans, devotional songs in India, and the folk ballads of Europe, examining how these forms reflect the cultural and historical contexts of their respective societies. DEI impact. Celebrating diversity. Exposure to different musical traditions helps students appreciate the diversity of artistic expression around the world. It encourages them to see music as a reflection of cultural identity and as a medium for storytelling and preserving heritage, whether it's the use of the sitar in Indian music or the piano in European compositions. Building cultural awareness. By understanding the cultural contexts in which different music forms were developed, students become more culturally aware and sensitive. This awareness helps them appreciate the significance of music in various cultures, such as the spiritual nature of Indian classical music or the ceremonial use of European classical music, promoting a deeper respect for cultural differences. Breaking down cultural barriers. Music often transcends language and geographic barriers. By engaging with diverse musical traditions, students can connect with cultures that might be very different from their own, fostering a sense of global unity and mutual respect. For instance, learning to appreciate the complexity of a raga or the structure of a symphony can create common ground between students from different cultural backgrounds. 4. Art. Exploring visual culture. Art is a key medium through which cultures express their histories, beliefs, and social values. By studying the art of different cultures, students learn to interpret and appreciate the visual language of diverse communities. Example: students might study traditional Indian art forms, such as Madhubani painting, known for its intricate patterns and vibrant colors that often depict mythological themes, and compare them with European art movements like the Renaissance, which emphasized realism, perspective, and humanism. They could also explore the rich tradition of Indian temple architecture and sculpture, such as the carvings of Khajuraho, and compare it with European cathedrals, such as Notre Dame, known for their Gothic architecture and religious symbolism. DEI impact: enhancing cultural literacy. Understanding the art of different cultures enhances students' cultural literacy, allowing them to read and appreciate the visual symbols and narratives that are important to different communities. This skill is crucial for developing a well-rounded, inclusive worldview, as it teaches students to see the world through the lens of other cultures. By studying art from around the world, students learn to value diverse perspectives and the ways in which different cultures interpret and represent the human experience. For example, they may learn to appreciate the abstract symbolism in Indian art alongside the realism in European art, fostering a broader appreciation for artistic diversity. Encouraging cross-cultural dialogue. Art often serves as a bridge between cultures, sparking dialogue and understanding. By engaging with the visual traditions of various cultures, such as the spiritual and symbolic art of India, or the religious and historical art of Europe, students are encouraged to engage in cross-cultural conversations that deepen their understanding and appreciation of diversity. 5. Culture. Understanding the fabric of society. Culture encompasses the beliefs, practices, norms, and values that define a community. By studying different cultures, students gain a deeper understanding of how societies function and how cultural norms influence behavior and social interactions. Example: students might explore the concept of Atithi Devo Bhava in Indian culture, which emphasizes hospitality and treating guests with utmost respect, and compare it with European traditions of hospitality, such as the French art de vivre, which includes the importance of social gatherings and enjoying life through food, wine, and conversation. They could also examine how cultural values like collectivism in India or individualism in many European countries shape social customs, rituals, and everyday life. DEI impact. Fostering open-mindedness. Learning about different cultural values and practices helps students develop open-mindedness and respect for ways of life that differ from their own. For example, understanding why hospitality is so central to Indian culture, or why the concept of leisure is important in European cultures, encourages students to embrace diversity and approach cultural differences with curiosity rather than judgment. Promoting mutual respect. By appreciating the cultural norms that guide other communities, students are more likely to interact with others in a respectful and considerate manner. For instance, understanding and respecting the importance of hospitality in Indian culture, or the value placed on social etiquette in European cultures, helps students engage more thoughtfully with peers from these backgrounds. Challenging cultural bias. Exposure to diverse cultures helps students recognize and challenge their own cultural biases. For example, learning about the deep-rooted cultural practices in India or the historical evolution of European social norms can help students question and overcome ethnocentric views, contributing to a more equitable and inclusive community. Food. Exploring culinary traditions. Food is a central aspect of cultural identity and tradition. By studying the culinary practices of different cultures, students learn about the history, geography, and social structures that shape what people eat and how they prepare their food. Example: students might explore the importance of spices in Indian cuisine, learning about how the historical spice trade influenced global culinary practices and led to India's diverse and flavorful dishes, such as curry and biryani. They could compare this with traditional European cuisines, such as the French emphasis on sauces and fine dining, or the Italian focus on pasta and regional ingredients like olive oil and tomatoes. Students could also participate in cooking classes where they prepare and taste traditional dishes from these cultures, such as making Indian masala or French ratatouille. Appreciating cultural diversity. Food is a direct and enjoyable way for students to experience and appreciate cultural diversity. By learning about and tasting foods from different cultures, students develop a greater appreciation for the uniqueness and richness of each culture's culinary traditions. For instance, understanding the significance of vegetarianism in India, or the use of fresh, local ingredients in European cuisine, fosters respect for these diverse practices. Building cross-cultural connections. Sharing and exploring food from different cultures can serve as a powerful tool for building connections and fostering understanding between diverse groups. For example, a classroom potluck where students bring dishes from their cultural backgrounds can create opportunities for dialogue and learning, promoting inclusivity and mutual respect. Addressing food insecurity and cultural sensitivity. Understanding the cultural significance of food also opens up discussions about food security, sustainability, and the importance of respecting cultural dietary practices. This helps students develop a more inclusive attitude toward cultural diversity in food choices and dietary needs, such as understanding and accommodating vegetarian or kosher diets in social settings. 7. Habits and daily practices. Understanding everyday life. Habits and daily practices are deeply embedded in culture and provide insight into the everyday lives of people around the world. By studying these practices, students can understand how cultural values and beliefs manifest in daily routines and behaviors. Example: students might learn about the Japanese practice of oshibori, offering warm or cool towels to guests as a sign of hospitality, and compare it with the Indian practice of starting the day with yoga or meditation, which reflects the importance of mental and physical well-being in Indian culture. They could also explore how these habits are connected to broader cultural values, such as respect for others and the pursuit of balance and health. EI impact: promoting cultural sensitivity. Understanding the habits and daily practices of different cultures helps students develop cultural sensitivity. They learn to appreciate the small, everyday actions that carry significant cultural meaning, which fosters respect and reduces the likelihood of misunderstandings or cultural faux pas. Encouraging respectful interactions. By recognizing and valuing different daily practices, students are more likely to interact with others in a respectful and considerate manner. This understanding is crucial for creating an inclusive environment where diverse practices are honored and respected. Building empathy. Learning about the daily routines of people from different cultures helps students empathize with experiences different from their own, encouraging them to consider the cultural context behind certain behaviors and practices. 8. Peculiarities and unique traditions. Exploring cultural quirks. Every culture has its own peculiarities and unique traditions that may seem unusual to outsiders, but hold deep significance for those within the culture. By studying these quirks, students learn to appreciate the diversity of cultural expressions and the importance of tradition. Example: students might explore the quirky tradition of La Tomatina in Spain, a festival where participants throw tomatoes at each other, and compare it with the Indian festival of Holi, where people throw colored powders to celebrate the arrival of spring. They could discuss how these unique traditions reflect cultural values and bring communities together in celebration. Celebrating cultural uniqueness. By learning about the unique traditions of different cultures, students come to appreciate the creativity and diversity of cultural expression. This celebration of cultural quirks fosters a positive attitude towards diversity and encourages students to see value in what might initially seem strange or unfamiliar. Reducing ethnocentrism. Exposure to the peculiarities of other cultures helps students challenge ethnocentric views, the belief that one's own culture is superior to others. Understanding that every culture has its own unique traditions that may not align with their own experiences encourages students to be more open-minded and accepting of differences. Encouraging exploration and curiosity. Learning about unique cultural traditions inspires curiosity and a desire to explore the world beyond one's immediate surroundings. This attitude of curiosity is essential for fostering an inclusive mindset and a willingness to engage with diverse cultures in a respectful and appreciative way.